So let's talk about a piecewise function. So what is a piecewise function? So a piecewise function, this is a function which has got more than one equation. Perhaps you have seen an equation which is like this, or a function which is like this. Okay, so you're going to have maybe more than one function. Let's say we have got x plus 2, then the domain is x is less than or equal to -1. So each function represent has got its own domain. Okay, so we have 1, then you have got comma, -1 is less than x, x is less than 1. Then we also have x squared, then we have comma, x is greater than or equal to 1. Okay, now here they're going to ask you to sketch this and maybe find the value. Sometimes let's say they ask us to say find f of -1, also find f of 0, again find f of 3. So how do we find that? So before we go any further, let's first sketch the function. Okay, so sketching a piecewise function, it is very simple. What you have to understand is that you only follow the domain which have been given. So you only follow these are the domain. Okay, so the first part here, this is the domain for the first function, this is the domain for the second function, this is the domain for the third function. Okay, so now what is happening here is that what we're going to do, we're going to say this is our graph. So I'll put it here. This is going to be my graph. Okay, so here's my graph. Now this graph, what I'm going to do is I'll start with the coordinate which have been given. So as we can see from the domain which we have been given, we are going to be following the same conditions which have been given. So the first part, they're saying that x plus 2, the values of x are supposed to be less than or equal to 1. Okay, so I'm going to start there. I'm going to say this is going to be my x, this is going to be my y. So the first part is -1. So in this function, in this equation, if I replace -1 where there is x, what will be the value of y? Okay, because the condition here is saying that x is less than or equal to -1. So I need to start from -1. But at that point, since it is less than or equal to, the first point is going to be a closed one, meaning it is included. If it was x less than 1 or -1, I would have started with what? An open one, meaning it is not included. Okay, so here I'm going to start with that one. Then I'm going to say if I put -1 in my first equation, I'm going to find that it's going to be -1 plus 2. So what is -1 plus 2? I'm going to get a 1. Okay, so I'm going to get a 1. Then if I put -2, it's going to be -2 plus 2 is going to give me a 0. So I'm going just to get three numbers or 3 values of x. Then let's also put -3. If I put -3, I'm going to find -1. Now from here, what I'm going to do is I'll go to my graph. Okay, the x values which I have is I have -1, -2, -3. Allow me to put also -4. So I have these values here. Next, I'll go to my y. My y, I have got -1, -2. I'm going to put all the way up to -3. That's all. Okay, then again, the first part here I'm going to put, okay, here I'm going to end on just 1 for the first equation. So I'm going to have -1, -2, -3. Then here I've got 1. So let's now plot the first which we have. So what is -1? -1, 1 is this point here. Okay, but at this point we are saying that it is included because it is x is less than or equal to -1. So -1, 1 is included. So I'm going to put a closed one. So 1, 1 is going to be at this point. I'm going to put a crossed one, meaning it is included. Okay, I've put that one. Next, I'm going to go where there is negative 2 comma 0. So where is negative 2 comma 0? Negative 2 comma 0 is this point here. Okay, then negative 3 comma 1, negative 3 is this one, 1 is here, so it's somewhere here, meaning that my point here is going to start from this point all the way going here. That is my point. So that is the first equation which we're going to have, meaning for the first part I'm done. For the first equation I'm done my sketching. I'll go to the second one. Okay, so what am I going to do in the second one? The second one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have also x and y, but this one is saying the values of x are supposed to start from negative 1 all the way to 1, meaning that I've got negative 1 here, negative 1, 0 and the 1. That's all. That is the domain. So the domain for that one is just from negative 1 not included, all the way from negative 1 not included to 1. So this is the domain which have been given. Okay, so that is what we're going to use. Those are the values of x. So in this one, if I put negative 1, I'm going to find that my value of y is going to be 1. I've been given already here. So any value which is within the range of negative 1 all the way to 1 is going to give me 1. So if I put negative 1, it's going to give me 1, but it's not going to be included at that point. 0 is going to give me 1, 1 is going to give me 1. So meaning that the first point is not going to be included. And which point is that? Negative 1 comma 1. And negative 1 comma 1 is this point. So I'm going to put an open circle here to show that it is not included. Next, I'm going to say 0 comma 1. 0 comma 1 is this point. Okay, next is going to be 1 comma 1. So 1, I'm going to put 1 here. Okay, 1 comma 1 is going to be at this point. It's going to be at this point, meaning that at this last part it is not, or it is less than as well, so it's going to be an open one. It's not included as well, meaning that I need to put now the line joining these 2 points. I'm done that. So the second equation, that is my graph. That is my graph. Okay, now from there I'll go to the third one now. Okay, how do I sketch that one? So I'm going to say that I'm going to have this x, y. So let's start now putting the numbers. So I have, they're saying that x is greater than or equal to 1. 1 is included. So I'm going to, if I put 1 squared, where there's x I put 1 squared is going to give me 1. Let's put 2 squared is going to give us what? 2 squared is going to give us a 4. Okay, let's put 3. Okay, 3 squared is going to give us what? It's going to give us a 9. So what we're going to do, since this is 1, let's put here 2. We put here 4, then here let's put 9 because we don't have space. So I'm going to say that this is going to be my 4, this is going to be my 9, meaning that from here now I can say 1 comma 1, but at this point 1 comma 1 is going to be included, so I'm going to put it inside there. Okay, so allow me to say this point here, let me just say, since it was open, I'm going to put an open one there. Okay, then now since this one is going to be closed, I'm going to put a closed one starting from there. That is where it's starting from. Now next point is 2 comma 4. So 2 comma 4, I'm going to put 2 here, and then I'm going to put 3 here. So 2 comma 4 is going to be this point. Okay, this point here is going to be 2 comma 4. Next is going to be 3 comma 9. 3 comma 9 is going to be somewhere here. Okay, this point. So I need just to join these lines. So I join these lines. That is going to be my third one. So now this graph which I have is the piecewise function which I have. This is the graph now. Okay, now from this graph we can see that we can even find the domain, the overall domain of this function. We can see that the x values, we don't know where it is ending, so it's going to be all real numbers starting from negative infinity all the way to positive infinity. That is going to be our domain because we don't know where it is ending. That's why I'm putting the arrows. These arrows simply means that we don't know where it is ending. Okay, so it can go all the way to positive infinity, that is x, all the way again to negative infinity. So it's going to be the domain is going to be all real numbers. What of the range? Even the y values, if we can check here, the y values are not restricted as well. So the y values, as we can see, is starting from negative infinity as well all the way to positive infinity. As simple as that. Okay, now the next question which we have to ask ourselves is what if we want to find f of -1? Okay, how are we going to find that? So f of -1, this is what we're going to have. Okay, so f of -1. So from these equations which we have here, we're going to choose the one which is telling us to say x is equal to what? -1. So the first equation saying that x is less than or equal to -1, meaning that -1 is included. I'm going to get that equation. So I'm going to say that x plus 2. Okay, so f of -1 is going to be -1 plus 2. So what will be our f of -1? F of -1 is going to be -1 plus 2 is going to give me 1. So that is the answer for what? For part 1. Okay, cool. Now let's also find the second one. The second one is saying find f of 0. So we're going to choose the equation which is going to tell us to say x is what? 0. Okay, so which equation is that? So we have got f of 0. The first equation saying that x is less than or equal to -1, meaning that the numbers from -1 all the way to negative infinity, 0 is not included there. We can't get the equation 1. Let's go to equation 2. Okay, equation 2 is saying that -1 all the way to 1, but those two are not included, but in between there is 0, meaning that that is the function which we're going to get. Okay, meaning that f of 0 is going to give us what? 1, because we don't have anything apart from 1 here. So f of 0 is going to be give us 1. That's all. Now the third one is saying f of 3. How can we find f of 3? Okay, so f of 3, this is what we're going to have. F of 3 is going to be which equation are we going to get? We can't get the first equation, because the first equation is saying that x plus 2, then x has to be less than or equal to -1, so we can't get that one. Second equation is saying -1 all the way to 1. 3 is not there. But the third equation is saying that x is greater than or equal to -1, meaning that the numbers from -1 all the way to positive infinity. So 3 is going to be in that one, meaning that we're going to say this is going to be x to the power 2. So f of 3 is going to be 3 squared. So f of 3 is going to be 3 squared is going to give us 9. So that is it for that one. Okay, so now let's say we have got a different function. Let's see how we can solve it. Okay, let's see how we can solve it. So let's say we have got a different one, and the same different one, let's say f of x is equal to, okay, so I'll draw this, let's say 0. That is then we start from -5 all the way to -5 less than or equal to x, then x has to be less than -2. Okay, now when I say -5 less than or equal to x, then less than -2, I can put this in set interval notation. So what it means there is that -5 is included, comma, -2 which is not included. So what it means is same as x is greater than or equal to -5. At the same time, x is less than -2, meaning that it's starting from -5. -5 is included all the way to what? This, but this is not included. That is what it means. So now what we're going to do here is the second one, let's say we have -x squared plus 4, comma, let's put -2 less than or equal to x, then let's say x is less than or equal to -1. So let's include both of them. So let's say also here we have -x, then we have plus 3, comma, let's say 2 is less than x, then x is less than or equal to 5. Now let's sketch this. We have to sketch, and then we need to find 1. We need to find f of -1. Again, we are going to use the same one, we need to find f of 0. Then the third part, we have to find f of 3. So first let's sketch the graph. Okay, so sketching this one is not going to be complicated, because we know that we are going to have this. Okay, that is what we're going to have. Let me have a nice one. So here is my graph. So what I'm going to do is I'll start with the first part. So the first part, we know that we are going to have x, y. So we have this. Now they are saying that the values are supposed to start from -5 all the way to -2. So I'll start with -5. If I put -5, the y value is going to be 0. Next is going to be -4. -4, the y value is going to be 0, because we don't have any x value here, meaning that that is the answer. If I put -5, the answer is going to be 0. I put -4, the answer is going to be 0. I put -3, the answer is going to be 0, all the way up to -2. If I put -2, the answer is going to be 0. Okay, so now from there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start now putting this. I'm going to have my -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6. So I'm going to put here -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6. So they are saying that it is starting from -5, 0, but -5 is included, so I'm going to put a closed one. Okay, it is included because it is less than or equal to, so -5 is included. Next, -4, 0 is this point. -3, 0 is this point. -2, 0, it is also included. No, it is less than 2, so it's not included. I'm going to put an open one there. So my line is going to start from here all the way to this point. So that is going to be my first part. Okay, now next I'll go to the second part. So I'm going to have this as well, x, y. Now let's put the values. They're saying that from -1 all the way to 1. So I've got -1 or -2, sorry, -2 all the way to 1. So -2, we have got -1, 0 all the way to 1. So in this equation, it's -x squared plus 4. So if I put -2, now remember, when you have something like this, this is this. When you are plugging in the values, what it means is that it's going to be negative, then -2 squared plus 4. So this is going to give us, inside there is going to be 4, but 4, there is negative outside, is going to be -4. So -4 plus 0 is going to give us a 0. That is also very, very important. Don't make a mistake where you are going to say you plug in 2, then you think as if it's going to be positive. No, because negative is outside the x. Okay, so we're going to have another one, which is going to be it's going to be -x squared plus 4. So if I put negative, then I have -1, I square is plus 4. It's going to be 1 squared, is going to be -1 squared, is going to be 1. So there's negative outside, so it's -1 plus 4, which is going to be what? It's going to give me 3. Okay, so I'm going to put my 3 here. What if I put 0? If I put 0, I'm expecting to have a 4, because it's going to be 0 squared, this is 0. 0 plus 4, we have 4. Next, we have 1. Okay, so the first point is going to be included. It is included. Even the last point is going to be included. So the last point is going to be 1. If I put 1 there, it's going to be 1 squared. So it's going to be -1, comma. I'm going to have what? If I have 1 squared, it's going to give me a 3. Okay, it's going to give me a 3. So I'm going to start now from there to say the first point is included. So I'll come there and say my first point, I'm going to have this is included, which is -2, 0 is this point. So I'm going to put it inside. It is included, yes. Okay, it is included. Next, -1, 3. Allow me to put 1 here. Let me put 2. I put 3 here. Let me put 4. I put 5. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So next point is the first point was -2, 1. That is the first, -2, 0. That is the first point which I've shaded it. Then next is negative 1 comma 3 is this point here. Then we have 0 comma 4, okay, which is this point. Next we have 1 comma 3, so I'll put 1 here, 3 is here. So it is starting from here, okay. Let me use different color. It is starting from this point all the way there, then here, but the last point is also included, so I need to put I need to shade it. So that is the second part. Now the third part, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I have x, again I have y, so I have this. So I'm going to have, starting from 2 is not included, so the first point is going to be open, okay. So 2 is not included. If I put 2 there, what's going to be my answer? Negative 2 plus 3, I'm going to have a 1, okay. I'm going to have a 1. Next I'm going to put a 3. It's supposed to end on 5, 3. So if I put 3 there, negative 3 plus 3 is going to give me a 0. Next, I'm talking about this equation here. That's where I'm plugging in the values. So now, next I'm going to have what? I'm going to have a 4. If I plug in 4 here, negative 4 plus this one, I'm going to have a negative 1. Okay, next I'm going to have a 5. But at this point where there's 5 is going to be included because it is less than or equal to. So if I put 5, it's going to be negative 5 plus 3. So what is negative 5 plus 3? Negative 5 plus 3 is going to give me a negative 2. So I'm done. Now from there, the x values are supposed to go all the way up to 5. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me even put 6. So I have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. As simple as that. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going now to plot this. So allow me to put negative 1 here. Then I put negative 2, negative 1, negative 2. So I'm going to have 2 comma 1, okay. So 2 comma 1 is this point, but at this point it is open, it is not it's going to be open. Next is 3 comma 0 is this point, 3 comma 0 is this point. Next 4 comma negative 1, 4 is this point, negative 1 is somewhere here, okay. Another one is 5 comma negative 2, 5 is here, negative 2 is somewhere here. So our point will be here. This is going to be our point, okay. So don't forget to put the arrows because we don't know where it is ending. So this is the sketching. It will be our f of, we start with f of negative 1, okay. So f of negative 1, which function are we going to get? Let's start with the first function. So the first function saying negative 5 negative 5 is less than or equal to x, then x is less than negative 2. Negative 1 is not in that range, so the first equation has failed. Let's go to the second one. Negative 2 less than or equal to x, then x is less than or equal to what? To 1, meaning that that one is going to work because it is from negative 2 all the way to 1. So negative 1 is in between, so we're going to get that function. It's going to be negative x squared plus 4. Now we plug in the values. Negative 1, so we're going to have negative 1 squared plus 4. So what will be our f of negative 1? So f of negative 1 is going to be negative 1 squared is going to give us a 1. So we're going to have negative 1 now plus 4 because of the negative which is outside. So f of negative 1, we're going to have a 3. So this is going to be the answer for f of negative 1. Okay. Now what of f of 0? Which one are we going to get? Let's see. So f of 0, let's check the first one. So the first one is saying from negative 5 all the way to negative 2, 0 is not in that range. The second one is saying from negative 2 all the way to positive 1, meaning that 0 is in that range. So we're going to get that one again. So it's going to be negative x squared plus 4. So f of 0 is going to be, then we have 0 squared plus 4. So our answer is going to be f of 0 is going to be 0 plus 4 is going to give us a 4. So that will be the answer for f of 0. Okay. So that is also very, very important, you knowing to say which equation am I going to use if I've been given f of 2, f of what? Yeah, so f of 3 now, which one do we expect? We expect the third one. The third one, that's why I'm saying 2 all the way to 5, meaning that 3 is in that range. So it's going to be, I'm going to get this equation. Okay, so f of 3 is going to be negative. I'm going to replace where there's x, we replace it with what? 3. This plus 3. So f of 3 is going to be equal to 0. As simple as that. So this is what you need to know under piecewise function.